Hello, welcome to the video tutorial on using Vlookup. So Vlookup is really a great way of appending data from one data source to an existing data source. So what does that mean? So let's say I have my students' CASP data, and I want to add a district benchmark to this data so I can see if the district benchmark I'm using is related to the CASP assessment score. So I have my CASP data on one sheet and my district benchmark on this other sheet. So one thing that's really important about the data is that both data has the same unique identifier for students. So in this case, I'm using student ID numbers, just made up student ID numbers. You can use things like student email or student state ID. You can use, I've even used things like student first name, student last name, grade level, teacher name, depending on how many students are in the data set you're using. You can use a whole bunch of different things. I think student ID numbers the easiest and best because usually it's a nice clean number. But you can use really anything as long as it's guaranteed to be unique in both data sets. So if you have Jose in your class, Jose is probably not going to be unique if you're looking at your district-wide data on something because there's probably multiple Jose's. So if you do VLOOKUP on Jose, you're going to get the same data. You might get the wrong student's data. But we have student IDs in this example, so that's what we're going to go ahead and use. So to get started with a formula, I'm just going to type in equals VLOOKUP. Now the first thing it wants is the search key. So the search key is the unique identifier. So the search key, I'm going to just click on this student's student ID number. And the next thing it wants is the range. So I just moved this over just to show you that the range does not have to start with column A. The range does need to start, though, with the unique identifier. So in this case, column D has the same type of unique identifier, student ID, as the cell A2 that we were using on the previous sheet. So I do need to start the range with here, and the range needs to extend to the right. You can't pull data from the left, so the database key alias has to be the leftmost column on the data you're pulling from. So you might need to rearrange the columns to get the database column to the left, and the range has to extend to the data you want to get. So in this case, the data is in the second column, so we just have to go from D to E. The next thing is the index. So the index is within this range that we just selected. What number column do we want to pull? So the first column of the range we selected is column 1. The second is number 2, 3, 4, and on and on and on. So our data set only has 2 columns, and we want to pull not the first column, but the second column, because we want the district benchmark brought over. So we're going to press 2. And the last question is this data sorted? Unless you're really confident, I'd always recommend using false. If you leave it blank or put in true, then it's going to assume the data is sorted. So it's going to potentially look for an approximate match. So if you're looking for Bob and it goes Amy, Sally, Bob, it's going to maybe use Amy or Sally because it's going to say, hey, I got to Sally and I didn't find Bob. Bob is the letter B, so he should have been before Sally. So I'm just going to look for the closest thing I can find, which would probably be Amy. So I would recommend, unless you're really confident the data is sorted numerically or alphabetically, just put in false. It makes the formula run a little slower, but typically it runs almost instantaneously in either way. So it doesn't really matter. It's like a theoretical problem of the additional time it takes. Now we're all done with our formula. We're going to go ahead and press enter. And now I have the score 74. If I want to check it, I can copy and paste I can copy the student ID number, go over to district benchmark and look for that student ID number. And hey, this student ID number has 74. Over here, it says 74. So this now the formula is successfully working. If I want to copy it down, I can just press Control C, Control Shift down arrow, and press Control V. And you'll notice I get a bunch of NA ugliness. That's just because there's nothing for me to VLOOKUP on column A for over here. But when I get up to the actual data, you see all these have nice pieces of correct numbers from the district benchmark. If data is missing, so if there's a student that has data for a CASP score and doesn't have a district benchmark score, it will also give you an NA because it won't be able to find that student in the other data set. But VLOOKUP is a really great way to bring different data sources together for comparison, to verify that your tests are accurate compared to other tests, or to look at a more complete picture of a student. If you're doing some sort of standard-based grades, you might want to pull data from multiple sources. And some of that data might be some formative assessments that you've done on Google Forms that don't actually go into your student data system. So VLOOKUP is a way for you to add all that data together. Super powerful, not too difficult to use. It does take some practice to get comfortable with it, though. So that's it. Thanks for watching.